Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Pahimam. Reading from Krishna book, Lord Krishna in Indraprastha city. And this is chapter 70. The 16,000 queens, headed by the goddess of fortune, Rukmini Devi, the ideal wife of Lord Krishna, and accompanied by their respective sons, all followed behind Lord Krishna. They were dressed in costly garments and decorated with ornaments, and their bodies were smeared with sandalwood pulp and garlanded with fragrant flowers. Riding on palanquins nicely decorated with silks, flags and golden lace, they followed their exalted husband, Lord Krishna. The infantry soldiers carried shields, swords and lances in their hands and acted as royal bodyguards to the queens. In the rear of the procession were the wives and children of all the other followers, and there were many society girls also following. Many beasts of burden like bulls, buffalo, mules and asses carried the camps, bedding and carpets. And women who followed were seated in separate palanquins on the backs of camels. This panoramic procession was accompanied by the shouts of the people and was full with the display of decorated coloured flags, umbrellas and whisks and different varieties of weapons, dress, ornaments, helmets and armaments. Shining in the sunlight, the procession appeared just like an ocean with high waves and sharks. In this way, the procession of Lord Krishna's party advanced towards Hastinapur, New Delhi, and gradually passed through the kingdoms of Atnata, Gujarat province, Suvira, Surat, and the great deserts of Rajasthan, and then Kurukshetra. Between those kingdoms were many mountains, rivers, towns, villages, pasturing grounds and mining fields. The procession passed through all these places in its advance. On his way to Hastinapur, the Lord crossed two big rivers, and the Drisvati and the Sarasvati. Then he crossed the province of Panchala and the province of Matsya. In this way he ultimately arrived at Indraprastha. The audience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is not very commonplace. Therefore, when King Yudhisthira heard that Lord Krishna had arrived in his capital, Hastinapur, he became so joyful that all his hairs stood on end in great ecstasy, and he immediately came out of the city to properly receive the Lord. He ordered the musical vibrations of different instruments and songs, and the learned brahmanas of the different city began to chant the hymns of the Vedas very loudly. Lord Krishna is known as Rishikesh, the master of the senses, and King Yudhisthira went forward to receive him exactly as the senses meet the consciousness of life. King Yudhisthira was the elder brother elder cousin of Krishna.
Naturally, he had great affection for the Lord, and as soon as he saw him, his heart became filled with great love and affection. He had not seen the Lord for many days, and therefore he thought himself most unfortunate to see the Lord present before him. Most fortunate. To see the Lord present before him. The king therefore began to embrace Lord Krishna again and again in great affection. The eternal form of Lord Krishna is the everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune. As soon as King Yudhisthira embraced him, he became free from all contamination of material existence. He immediately felt transcendental bliss and merged in an ocean of happiness. There were tears in his eyes, and his body shook in ecstasy. He completely forgot that he had living in this material world. After this, Bhimasena, the second brother of the Pandavas, smiled and embraced Lord Krishna, thinking of him as his own maternal cousin, and thus he was merged in great ecstasy. Bhimasena also was filled with ecstasy that for the time being he forgot his material existence. Then Lord Sri Krishna himself embraced the other three Pandavas, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva. The eyes of all three brothers were inundated with tears, and Arjuna embraced Krishna again and again because they were intimate friends. The two younger Pandava brothers, after being embraced by Lord Krishna, fell down at his lotus feet to offer their respects. Lord Krishna therefore offered his obeisances to the Brahmanas present, as well as to the elderly members of the Kuru dynasty like Bhishma, Drona and Dhritarashtra. There were many kings of different provinces, such as Kuru, Srinjaya and Gekaya, and Lord Krishna duly reciprocated greetings and respect with them. The professional reciters like the Sutas, Magadhas and Vandinas, accompanied by Brahmanas, offered their respectful prayers to the Lord. Artists and musicians like the Gandharvas, as well as the royal jokers, began to play their drums, conch shells, kettle drums, veenas, mridangas, and bugles, and they exhibited their dancing art to please the Lord. Thus, the all-famous Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, entered the great city of Hastinapur, which was opulent in every respect. While Lord Krishna was entering the city, all the people talked amongst themselves about the glories of the Lord, praising his transcendental name, quality, form, and so on. The roads, streets, and lanes of Hastinapur were all sprinkled with fragrant water through the trunks of intoxicated elephants.
In different places of the city there were colourful festoons and flags decorating the houses and streets. At important road crossings there were gates with golden decorations, and at the two sides of the gates there were golden water jugs. These beautiful decorations glorified the opulence of the city. Participating in this great ceremony, all the citizens gathered here and there, dressed in colourful new clothing and decorated with ornaments, flower garlands and fragrant scents. The houses were all illuminated by hundreds and thousands of lamps placed in different corners of cornices, walls and columns, bases and architraves, and from far away the rays of the lamps appeared to be celebrating the festival of Deepavali, a particular festival observed on New Year's Day of the Hindu calendar. Within the walls of the houses, fragrant incense was burning and smoke rose through the windows, making the entire atmosphere very pleasing. On top of every house, flags were flapping and golden water pots were kept on the roofs. It shone very brilliantly. Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas and enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere and slowly proceeded ahead. When the young girls in every house heard that Lord Krishna, the only object worth seeing, was passing on the road, they were very eager to see this all-famous personality. Their hair loosened and their tightened saris became slack due to their hastily rushing to see him. They gave up their household engagements, and those who were lying in bed with their husbands immediately left them and came directly down onto the street to see Lord Krishna. The procession of elephants, horses, chariots and infantry was very crowded. Some people, being unable to see properly in the crowd, got up on the roofs of the houses. Pleased to see Lord Sri Krishna passing with his thousands of queens, they showered flowers on the procession and they embraced Lord Krishna within their minds, and they gave him a hearty reception. When they saw him in the midst of his many queens, like the full moon situated amidst many luminaries, they began to talk amongst themselves. One girl said to another, "My dear friend, it is very difficult to guess what kind of pious activities these queens have performed, for they are always enjoying the smiling face and loving glances of Krishna." While Lord Krishna was thus passing on the road, at intervals some of the opulent citizens, who were all rich, respectable and freed from sinful reactions, presented auspicious articles to the Lord, just to offer him a reception to the city. Thus they worshipped him as humble servitors.
When Lord Krishna entered the palace, all the ladies were overwhelmed with affection upon seeing him. They immediately received Lord Krishna with glittering eyes, expressing their love and affection for him, and Lord Krishna smiled and accepted their feelings and gestures of reception. When Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, saw her nephew, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she was overpowered with love and affection. She at once got up from her bedstead and appeared before him with her daughter-in-law, Draupadi. And in maternal love and affection she embraced him. As he brought Krishna within the palace, King Yudhishthir became so confused in his jubilation that he practically forgot that what he was to do at that time to receive Krishna and worship him properly. Lord Krishna delightfully offered his respects and obeisances to Kunti and other elderly ladies of the palace. His younger sister Subhadra was also standing there with Draupadi, and both offered their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. At the indication of her mother-in-law, Draupadi brought the clothing, ornaments, and garlands, and with this paraphernalia they received the queens Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Chambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, Lakshmana, and devoted Satya. These principal queens of Lord Krishna were first received, and then the other queens were also offered a proper reception. King Yudhishthira arranged for Krishna's rest and saw that all who came along with him, namely his queens, his soldiers, his ministers, and his secretaries, were comfortably situated. He had arranged that they would experience a new feature of reception every day while staying as guests of the Pandavas. It was during this time that Lord Sri Krishna, with the help of Arjuna, allowed the fire god Agni to devour the Khandava forest for his satisfaction. During the forest fire, Krishna saved the demon Mayasura, who was hiding in the forest. Upon being saved, Mayasura felt obliged to the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and he constructed a wonderful assembly house within the city of Hastinapur. To please King Yudhishthir, Lord Krishna remained in the city of Hastinapur for several months. During his stay, he enjoyed strolling here and there, and he used to drive on chariots with Arjuna, and many warriors and soldiers used to follow them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 70th chapter of Krishna, Lord Krishna, in Indraprastha city. Chapter
71. Liberation of King Jarasandha. In the great assembly of respectable citizens, friends, relatives, Brahmins, Sattras and Vaishyas, in the presence of all, including his brothers, King Yudhishthira directly addressed Lord Krishna as follows. My dear Lord Krishna, the sacrifice known as the Rajasuya Yajna is to be performed by the emperor, and it is considered the king of all sacrifices. By performing this sacrifice, I wish to satisfy all the demigods, who are your empowered representatives within this material world. I wish that you kindly help me in this great adventure, so that it may be successfully executed. As far as the Pandavas are concerned, we have nothing to ask from the demigods. We are personally fully satisfied to be your devotees. As you say in the Bhagavad Gita, persons bewildered by material desires worship the demigods. But our purpose is different. I want to perform this Rajasuya sacrifice and invite the demigods to show them that they have no power independent of you. They are all your servants, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons with a poor fund of knowledge consider your lordship an ordinary human being. Sometimes they try to find fault in you, and sometimes they defame you. Therefore, I wish to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. I wish to invite all the demigods, beginning from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other exalted chiefs of the heavenly planets. And in that great assembly of demigods from all parts of the universe, I want to substantiate that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that everyone is your servant.
My dear Lord, those who are constantly in Krishna consciousness and who think of your lotus feet or your or your shoes are certainly freed from all contamination of material life. Persons who engage in your service in full Krishna consciousness, who meditate upon you only or who offer prayers unto you are purified souls. Being constantly engaged in Krishna conscious service, they are freed from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Or even if they do not desire to be freed from this material existence or to enjoy material opulences, their desires are also fulfilled by their Krishna conscious activities. In fact, those who are pure devotees of your Lord, of your lotus feet, have no desire for material opulences. As far as we are concerned, we are fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and by your grace we are so fortunate as to see you personally. Therefore, naturally, we have no desire for material opulences. The verdict of the Vedic wisdom is that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I want to establish this fact, and I also want to show to the world the difference between accepting you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and accepting you as an ordinary, powerful, historical person. I wish to show to the world that one can attain the highest perfection of life simply by taking shelter at your lotus feet, exactly as one can satisfy the branches, twigs, leaves, and flowers of an entire tree simply by watering the root. If one takes to Krishna consciousness, his life becomes fulfilled both materially and spiritually. This does not mean that you are partial to the Krishna conscious person and indifferent to the non-Krishna conscious person. You are equal to everyone. That is your declaration. You cannot be partial to one and not interested in others, for you sit in everyone's heart as the Supersoul and give everyone the respective results of his fruitive activities. You give every living entity the chance to enjoy this material world as he desires. As Supersoul, you sit in the body with a living entity, giving him the results of his own actions, as well as opportunities to turn toward your devotional service by developing Krishna consciousness. You openly declare that one should surrender unto you, giving up all other engagements, and that you will take charge of him, giving him relief from the reactions of all sins. You are like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which award benedictions according to one's desires. Everyone is free to achieve the highest perfection, but if one does not so desire, then your awarding of lesser benedictions is not due to partiality.
On hearing this statement by King Yudhisthira, Lord Krishna replied as follows: My dear King Yudhisthira, O killer of enemies, O ideal justice personified, I completely support your decision to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. After you perform this great sacrifice, your good name will remain well established forever in the history of human civilization. My dear King, I may inform you that all the great sages, your forefathers, the demigods, and your relatives and friends, including me, desire that you perform this sacrifice. I think that it will satisfy every living entity. But I request that you first conquer all the kings of the world and collect all the requisite paraphernalia for executing this great sacrifice. My dear King Yudhisthira, your four brothers are direct representatives of important demigods like Varuna and Indra. It is said that Bhima was born of the demigod Varuna and Arjuna was born of the demigod Indra, whereas King Yudhisthira himself was born of the demigod Yamaraj. Your brothers are great heroes, and you are the most pious and self-controlled king, and are therefore known as Dharmaraj. All of you are so qualified in devotional service to me that I've automatically become revealed to you. Lord Shri Krishna told King Yudhisthira that he is conquered by the love of one who has conquered his senses. One who has not conquered his senses cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the secret of devotional service. To conquer the senses means to engage them constantly in the service of the Lord. The specific qualification of all the Pandava brothers was that they always engaged their senses in the in the Lord's service. One who thus engages his senses becomes purified, and with purified senses the devotee can actually render loving, transcendental service to the Lord and conquer him. Lord Krishna continued, there is no one in the three worlds of the universe, including the powerful demigods, who can surpass my devotees in any of the six opulences, namely wealth, strength, reputation, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. And therefore, if you want to conquer the worldly kings, there is no possibility of their emerging victorious. When Lord Krishna thus encouraged King Yudhisthira, the king's face brightened like a blossoming flower because of transcendental happiness, and thus he ordered his younger brothers to conquer all the worldly kings in all directions. Lord Krishna empowered the Pandavas to execute his great mission of chastising
the infidel miscreants of the world and giving protection to his faithful devotees. In his Vishnu form, the Lord carries 4 weapons in his 4 hands: a lotus flower, a conch shell in 2 hands, and in other 2 hands a globe and a disc. The globe and disc are meant for the infidel miscreants and demons, and the lotus flower and conch shell for the devotees. But because the Lord is the Supreme Absolute, the result of all his weapons is one and the same. With the globe and the disc, he chastises the miscreants so that they may come to their senses and know that they are not all in all, for above them there is the Supreme Lord. And by bugling with the conch shell and offering blessings to the lotus flower, he always assures the devotees that no one can vanquish them, even in the greatest calamity. King Yudhisthira, being thus assured by the indication of Lord Krishna, ordered his youngest brother Sahadev, accompanied by soldiers of the Srinjaya tribe, to conquer the southern countries. Similarly, he ordered Nakula, accompanied by the soldiers of Matsyadesh, to conquer the kings of the western side. He sent Arjuna, accompanied by the soldiers of Kakeyadesh, to conquer the kings of the northern side, and he ordered Bhimasena, accompanied by the soldiers of Madras, to conquer the kings of the eastern side. It may be noted that by dispatching his younger brothers to conquer in different directions, King Yudhisthira did not actually intend that they declare war upon the kings. Actually, the brothers started for different directions to inform the respective kings about King Yudhisthira's intention to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. The kings were thus informed that they were required to pay taxes for the execution of the sacrifice. This payment of taxes to the Emperor Yudhisthira meant that the kings accepted subjugation before him. In case of a king's refusal to act accordingly, there was certainly a fight. Thus, by their influence and strength, the brothers conquered all the kings in different directions, and they were able to bring in sufficient taxes and presentations, which they brought before King Yudhisthira. King Yudhisthira was very anxious. However, when he heard that King Jarasandha of Magadha did not accept his sovereignty, King Yudhisthira was very anxious. However, when he heard that King Jarasandha of Magadha did not accept his sovereignty, seeing King Yudhisthira's anxiety, Lord Krishna informed him of the plan explained by Uddhava for conquering King Jarasandha. Bhimasena, Arjuna, and Lord Krishna then started together for Girivraja, the capital city of Jarasandha, dressing themselves in the garb of Brahmanas. And we are,
in the guise of Brahmanas.
yeah.
Some things you can't hide.
Just amazing pastimes of Krishna with his devotees, Pandavas. Yeah,
Amazing.
amazing.
Beautiful.
We are so fortunate by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're able to absorb ourselves in Krishna's pastimes. And especially during the evening hours when we read these pastimes, we have a good chance to dream about his pastimes. Sweet dreams.